Hi class. Hi everyone. Hi, I'm your teacher. Teacher Rulers. Hi class. Sit down. Made me break my ruler. So today, I want to continue the lesson of using the modal rulers. I posted last week. I'll put that link up here in case you missed it. In this lesson, I really want to talk about what the ruler means and how we can start to lay it out and kind of relate it back to original music theory. So this is not blues rules. This is, you're going to hear a lot of songs that break the rules, but these are the rules, the rules of Western harmony. So let me pull up the chalkboard to try to help explain it a little bit better. And hopefully these rulers will start to make sense to you, to be able to see things and then also create things musically. Here I am. Always wanted to have a flying V. I want to build a house where I can rock out, and I have the first house on the block. So lucky me. But the city comes in and says, we're going to make this block a circle. And you, being the first person, can come up with some rules about how this block is going to lay out. But we need 12 lots available, and you're going to be able to pick the next 6 houses. Okay, and how far they are from you clockwise. So, great rule. I'm down. I'll take it. I'll do it. My very first rule is going to be that I want the house clockwise from me on this circle to be 1 full lot away. So I don't want it to be in the next lot. I want a good bit of space when I walk out my door and go around the street clockwise. And I want that house to also have an empty lot between that house and the next house. Now, the city says that's cool, but we're going to have to put a house right next to that house because we have some rules here. And I said, that's fine, but that guy in that house, he's going to want the same rule that I do. And in fact, that guy's going to want the same rule that I do. Can we make this work? And he says, sure thing. That number 4 house there, that house can have a lot next to it that's empty. And that number 5 house can have a lot next to it that's empty. So that's cool. And I said, okay, well, what about this next house? Can we do that here too with that one? And he says, sure thing. But that just means that this next house, we have to build this last house here in the lot counterclockwise to you, right next to you. And I said, okay, that's fine. And turns out we're all Roman. Hey, how about that? All right. And it turns out that me, the 4 and the 5 house, we're majors. We're grown-ups, okay? And the 2 and the 3 house and the 6 and the 7, they're loaded with minors. Ooh, it's going to be a party block, right? So if the city had its way, the chromatic way, they would have also placed orange houses in those lots right there. Those orange houses represent the houses that aren't there. That's an empty space. So we can think of this street now as being the major scale because that's why I'm doing this. It's a whole step away from house 1 to house 2 if you're walking clockwise, and then a whole step away from house 2 to house 3. There's 2 lots there that are right next to each other between the 3 and the 4. And then we follow the same rule for the 4. Starting from the 5, we have the same formula. And that starts to give us our major scale. All of these houses can be thought of as Roman numerals, and that's our key signature, okay? So right now we're in a major neighborhood, okay? And the fun thing to do is to start thinking about different starting points from walking out of your house. I've got a buddy that's not next to me. The house next to me, when we play together, they don't always sound great. There's a little bit of a clash. Sometimes that's cool. But when I want to make a chord, I want to make my gang of the 3 of us, me, a buddy, and another buddy that sound great together. I want to skip that second house coming clockwise, and I want to go over to the 3rd house. And yeah, he's a minor. Okay, that's fine. That's all right. We're not going to worry about that right now because, we're just playing music. and you skip that fourth house and you go to the fifth house. That is how you make a major chord. A whole step and a whole step, or a major third from your root, and then a whole step and a half step, or the minor third to the root. Okay, so as long as that formula is followed, then we get our chord. Now, you could do that again. You could stack these thirds, and from the fifth to the seventh house, the house that's right next to me, basically, that's another major third. So we've alternated a major third interval, and then a minor third interval, and then another major third interval, and that would give us a major seventh chord. We're not really going to worry about that right now. We're going to think about our major gang, and these are the buddies that we play with really well. And there are chords. Okay, so if we're on the one, leaving my house, and I play a major third, and then we skip over a house and go over to the fifth. So in A, that would be A, C sharp, and E. That's what that sounds like. And major chords, have that. There's D, here's G. Okay, so that's that sound. That sound, when you bring all the houses in, creates the mode. There's our major mode. And you can still see the houses within our triad gang are in this major mode. And that's the thing about chords, is that from that fourth house and from that fifth house, they're each going to have a triad gang themselves, and they're going to be major. You see, from the fourth house to the sixth house, we have two whole steps, and then from that sixth house back to the one, my house, we have a whole step and a half step. You can't just take the numbers, these standard numbers, and move them around like that, though. You see how the intervals start to just not line up. We want to go to each house, and we want to not have all of these numbers misplaced. We want to create a new master of his own gang within that house. So his interval to his third house, not the house next to him, but that third is going to be a minor third. Our A major would be, and our B, if we went up a whole step to this second house and walked out his house and played our B, and then we played in key, the proper note, it would be a D, and that's a third away. And then we would go to the perfect fifth. See, now from the third house to the fifth house, there on the standard numbers, we have a perfect fifth as well, because now we have the proper formula of adding two whole steps and then adding a whole step and a half step. They're just in a different starting point. The whole step and half step coming first gives us that minor sound. And then going two whole steps up to the perfect fifth will complete that triad. So your A major from Aeolian, and then we go over to Dorian, starting on B, leaving from the second house. And that's the sound we get for that triad gang. And the whole scale is going to create a sound. The same thing with Phrygian. You see, we're going to have this time a half step away from that house, but followed up by a whole step. That still gives us a minor third. So from this next step, from this C sharp, we have a half step and then a minor third. So we still have a minor third interval between those houses. And then from that third, see, we still have a whole step and a whole step. And that's going to give us our 1, 3, 5, leaving the Roman third house. And it's going to give us this chord. So now we have A major, B minor, C sharp minor. So, and then we just kind of keep on building our chords and our modes in that same manner. You leave the Lydian house and you create your chords appropriately. The standard 1, 3, 5 on the inside circle is going to create a major triad. And then when we do the same thing here in E, we're going to get another major triad. It's got the proper formulas. This mode 1 right here, we picked it up, and these these notes were our shape. Not a half step, but a whole step. So, and then a whole step again. That's our shape 1. Okay. Mode 4 is also a major shape. See that? That's going to have that same pattern. So I'm going to go from A string to D string, and instead of going here, continuing up the string, I want to go vertically to the next string. So this is where the phone number comes in. 1 4 7 3 6 2 5. You can start from any point within that phone number. Let's just focus on these low strings. Let's just chunk this out. Okay, imagine that right now we're up here on the 10th fret. So imagine this is low E 10th fret right there. Okay, so the 1 now is going to raise this 7 back to its normal home, right? So our 5. The only difference between the Mixolydian and the Aeolian is going to be that major 7th of the Aeolian. Mixolydian. Aeolian. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go down and move to the 4. Okay, 1 4. Now we're going to play Lydian in D, okay? So we have to raise here our major in D, our Mixolydian, back to major. Now from that major, if all we have to do is change one note, this 4th here, see? So our Lydian, our 4th degree, that shape is one note different from this, which is one note different from this. Okay, so let's keep on going. These major modes and these minor modes, they all differ by just one note between them. And that's what the ruler and that phone number will really start to show you. So when you come out of the 6th house, you have your Aeolian, and when you have left the 7th house, you get Locrian. And Locrian is odd because you get your minor 3rd, but you also have a flatted 5th. So let's hear our Aeolian would be F sharp minor. And then we're going to go up to G sharp, and we're going to play G sharp. And that's going to be G sharp to B to D. And you see how that is 2 minor 3rds stacked on top of each other when you leave the Locrian house here. We're going 1 to 2 as a half step to 3. That's a minor 3rd, and then 3 to 4, and then just another half step to 5. So that's where we get our diminished 5th. So 5ths and 4ths, they're perfect, or they're augmented if they're raised, and they're diminished if they are lowered. And 3rds, 2nds, 6th, and 7th intervals, they're going to be major or minor. Minor if they're lowered, major if they're standard, per our neighborhood. So here we have the A major neighborhood. Now, there are 12 neighborhoods. There's A major. We'll just talk about a couple of them right now. And there's E major. You see between these 2 majors, we have our perfect 5ths listed. A major's perfect 5th is E. And then if we go to E and we look at its perfect 5th, it's actually B. And they're perfect. They can be used in all of these modes except the 7th, which has, like I just mentioned, diminished the 5th. So let's look at a couple of more keys here and start adding our majors. You see the C sharp here in A major. And that's going to create a 4 and a 5 that are D major and E major. And you can hear that desire to go home when you get around to that 5th house. You know, you've gone all the way around that street. You want to get home, you know. That's how these modes work. Here's our triads within the neighborhood, and that's our chord, our major gang. That's our group. And I'm not going to spend too much more time here talking about the neighborhoods, but you see, as you move out of A major and you move over to E major, you have a different set of intervals, a different set of notes, but the patterns are all really the same. You're here in G major now. You see now we have a whole different set of chords. We have G major, C major, that 4 between the B and the D, following our formulas, and we can start to really create some cool music when we start to explore these relationships. And one of the first relationship we always hear about is our cousin, the 6th. So if you're in G major and you go out the door to the right there, metaphorically speaking, a half step away from G to F sharp and then E, and that's your E minor. So those are related. And why are they related? Well, they actually have some similar notes. If we look at our intervals, the 1, 3, and the 5 of our triad gang, that's major, whatever key we're in, the tonic is the 1, the major third is that 3, and then the 5, that's our little pink perfect house there. If we go over to our relative's house, walk out of his door, go clockwise, and apply our formula from his house. We skip the first house he comes to and go to the next house. Well, that's our house, which we know is we're the one here in this case of our neighborhood. So we're acting as his relative cousin. Okay, so we're his minor third. Whatever you want to, whatever kind of metaphor makes it work for you, whatever makes it click. From his house, we serve a different purpose than walking out from our house. And what is our third house becomes his 5th. So you can see there's the relationship. We have houses related. We have notes related. We have then triads related, which means then we have pentatonics that are going to be related, and we're going to have modes and scales, etc., that can be related. So when we're writing songs and looking at minor chords and major chords, yeah, there's a formula. There is a real, actual strict formula, and once you know the rules, you can start to break them. But the first thing to do is understand the difference between the chords and the pentatonics. What's different between 3 notes, walking out of your house and stopping by 2 friends' houses, or actually inviting a couple other people to the party. So now out of our 7 houses that I'm allowed to build in my neighborhood, E pentatonic minor is going to share some of those notes with me. And in fact, the G pentatonic major would be the same notes because that's our relationship. We're going to have these houses in common. Now, you notice those numbers inside, the purpose that they're serving, depending on the house that you're walking out of, then they're going to change, of course. But you can see now that maybe hopefully a little bit more clearly how 3 notes of G, you break it down, and 2 of those notes are common to E minor, and you can do the same thing in A. If you look at A major, the key, then you know that F sharp minor will be its relative neighbor. So here in G major, our relative neighbor or our relative minor is going to be E minor. And A, you'll have that F sharp. And in E, you would have C sharp. You kind of, with this circle, start to see that there's going to be a whole bunch of neighborhoods. They're all the exact same. And every single house you walk out of is kind of cookie cutter if you want to think about it in shapes and theories. Now, it's different than a piano, on a guitar. It's just a little different. And that's why I like to take the ruler aspect and apply it to what we're talking about. So imagine that this street was a straight line, okay? Just like our guitar string is a straight line. We have rock and roll. We have 1 octave there, and that would be 1 ruler if you're playing along with the ruler game. If you have a 24 fret guitar, one string is going to give you 2 octaves. From your open string all the way up to that 24th fret, you will have 2 rulers laid out in front of you with various starting points that you will be able to take off from. All of those starting points will be relative to the neighborhood that you're in, as far as what you're going to call them and what you can then do with that neighborhood musically. So just because you're in the G neighborhood, the G major neighborhood, doesn't mean you have to ever play a G chord. That's where a lot of the fun starts to really break in, is using these shapes and these patterns in ways that we can see our music in front of us, not just think about it too much, but actually create these muscle memory patterns. And so if we're in G, and I go up to the 5, I have a D, and then I have a C major, okay? So if you can come up with some interesting stuff for this, or some riffs, here's an E pentatonic riff, and then throw this. So you get the 2 chords from your G neighborhood that are major, and then throw in a little bit of its relative minor. And then you got some stuff that you can start to do. You can throw it up an octave. So that's instead of doing the A shape down here, you can go up here. And you can already hear that's kind of musical. And we're not even playing G. But as soon as I play G, you hear it going home, right? You hear it stop. If I want to jam, I want to really get down, I might not want to do that. I might not want to hit that G. I'm going to want to live in that world, but I also know I'm in the G neighborhood, so all the notes from G are safe. All the modes in G are safe. A, Dorian, which is going to have a raised 6th. And we can look at our rulers and see this start to happen. Start with the G major, but end on that D. And I can play the A minor pentatonic, B minor pentatonic, E minor pentatonic, G major up higher. D, C, So I can kind of think in C Lydian. I can run, like, say I go up Lydian, C, and down Mixolydian. Mixolydian's a lot of fun to mess with, you know, and the key to the Mixolydian is that the whole fact that all three strings in a row have that shape. A good practice is to do these 3-note per string patterns like this. Because it helps you end on the octave, so it would be just kind of a... And then if you start to run these shapes all with this phone number kind of in mind and just do it in one chunk, you can really start to hear the differences just between the shapes. Thank you guys for being here. I can't believe I've gotten past the 800 mark on subscribers. Every single subscriber matters to me. Every comment and every like really means something to me. Thanks for being here at my channel, Double D Guitar. It's me, Dave Dowling. Peace out. See ya.